Hey, good afternoon. It's Saturday. It's day 116. I don't know why I say it's day 116 because normally I end up doing something completely different on these streams. It really depends what I've got my teeth into. But we have hi Cats, hi Sunbuster, hi whoever else, Young Minson. Right, so would you boys? Okay. Widgets. Let's have a look at widget boys. So let's have a look in particular at interaction widget. Okay. Just starting this up and we'll take it from there. We'll have a look and then we'll see how I go about this. And then you can add follow-up questions, whatever. Okay. So basically, this is an interactable item, okay? The plate of food, okay? And basically it throws up a widget. And that's the widget there, okay? Now let's go into the basics of how this works. We have a BP base interactable, which is the very base class which just stores some variables, right? And then we have, not that one, we have basically an interactable interface, okay? And all interactable items have that interface implemented. So we'll have a look at this. This is it here, right? And basically we'll have a look at these two things here. These are the overlap and the unoverlap, okay? So you can see in class settings that we have BP interactable, okay, which is inherited from the base class. And if we go up, we can look at interfaces and we have BP interactable. We have basically use, pick up, inspect and more info, okay? And then we have use, pick up, inspect, more info are the parent calls, and the use item, pick up item, inspect item and more info item are the child versions, okay? So basically what happens is we're going to use those interfaces, right? But first if our interactable begins overlap with the player and our current mode is normal, i.e. we're just wandering about, then we basically create the widget. Okay? And we pass in the item data of our interactable item. Okay? Now, this is because, now I don't know how basic you want this, but this is an exposed item. The item and the item data are both exposed in this widget. Oh yeah. Mañana. Okay, mi amor. Right. So we go in here, change this widget reflector to 1.3. That should make it a bit better. Okay, so these are basically exposed. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Well, what it means is, if we go into, have we got a, right, we've got widgets, right? So let's create a folder. I'm just going to basically show you what this means, right? And we'll call it test widgets, okay? Then in here we're going to create a widget. So user interface widget blueprint, okay? User widget, and we'll call it W sunburst, okay? Hi Mike, how you doing, bud? Right, so I'll show you a few things about this and what I mean by expose on spawn, that type of thing. Right, now what you really want to do is, right, see for example, let's say we wanted to show the details of an item, an equipment item, okay? Well, what we could do is open up our widget, right? So our widget's going to show nothing at the moment, right? I'm not worried about that. But in our graph, we're going to delete that. We're going to delete that, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to add a variable. And let's say we'd have to do this. I don't want to take this too far. I just want to basically show the basics of what this means. So B will say is gun. Okay? Boolean is gun. And then what we can do is, if we want to expose it, right, what we can say is instance editable and expose on spawn. Okay? Now, what that means is, if I create this widget, it will have our variable exposed, right? So what I shall do is I shall create a keybind or something, right? So up here we can basically say on pressing 8 we can create a widget, right? And if we select sunburst, you'll notice our variable is there, so that we can pass this directly in, right? Now, because you're walking up to the item, right? For example, I'm walking up to this plate of food. I know it is an interactable item, and it will already have the item data, right, then basically what I can do is, if I had another variable called item data, all I need to do is get my interactable item to pass in the item data, right? But we'll do it kind of mock-up with a much more simplistic approach. Okay? So basically, if we press A, we do that, we either say true or false to that, and then we add to viewport. Right, now we haven't actually added anything to this widget yet, but we will. Right? Now, the other thing is, if we didn't expose this, right, there's another way we could do this. We could basically say is gun, and we can set it or get it, right? So we could set it here, right? But this just sets it up on creation, right? Which means that basically in our widget, what was the error there? Oh yeah, got to plug that in, I suppose. Right. So what that means is that when it's set up, that variable is set. It's not after the fact, right? If that was the case, I would probably have to set up like a set or a get, right? So I would have to create this, and if I didn't expose this, I would have to set it once it's actually constructed. And then I'd have to, like, if I wanted to do something, I would create a function within the widget that basically updates that value and then sets the widget up based on that value. But because we're passing it in and exposing it on the spawn, we don't need to worry about that. All we need to do is basically set it up in the construct, because we can already pull this value in. Because it was set on expose on spawn, we know that the value is there. Okay? After the fact, we'd have to do like an event. So we'd have to probably do like a custom event, right? Which would be set is gun. Then we'd have to do an input. Right, I'll do this. Let's do this because this is basic stuff, right? But if you've never done this before, then it might actually be quite enlightening. So let's do this, right? So what we can do is we can change this to whatever we want. We can say, let's say it's value, right? And now what we'd have to do here is basically set this and say set, put in the value and do that, right? And how we'd call that would actually now be set is gun, right? And then we'd have to pass our value in like this. So that's the two ways you can do it, right? So this is like after the fact, and this is as we're setting it up. Okay? So do you guys understand that? Is this too basic for you, or is this enlightening? Right, anyway, hopefully we go into something a bit more complicated in how I would do something, right, in a second. So the next thing is, what we could do is we could say we could do a switch or we could do a branch, right? Because it's only two values, we're going to do a branch. So basically what we're saying here is, if it's a gun, do this. If it's a gun, do that, right? And then what we can do is we can start making a thing, right? So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to a panel and we're going to do a canvas panel, right? That gives us our canvas panel. Then we're going to do a border, and our border is going to fill the whole thing. So we basically reset these back to 0. And because we're completely bonkers, we're going to do black, I hope. I think that's me just done. I think I want to cancel that. It's actually this one. This is the content. We're not colouring the content, so that can bog off, right? So there's our widget. Okay. Well, that's not very exciting, is it? Not really, but they start off not very exciting. So next thing we could do is, say you've got your items, right? And I hope Mike's listening to this one, because this is going to tie into what we're going to do. But say for example you have a medikit, and say for example you have a gun, and say for example you have food, right? Well, creating one widget for all those different instances to store the values is going to be kind of hard, right? And you don't really want to do lots of taking stuff out and making it visible or invisible or blah blah, depending on what blah, you know. So basically what you could do is we could create, let's say, a horizontal box. A horizontal box. Right? And then in our horizontal box, we're going to split it in down the middle, right? We're going to split it right down the middle. So what we can do is a canvas panel, or in fact, tell you what we'll do a vertical box, right? That allows us to split it vertically, right? And we're going to do that. Okay, you still see no difference. Let's do something. Let's add an image, and we'll just add it here. Oh, look at that. Now what we can do is this vertical box, right, we can say fill it, and we can say fill it, and now we've got two panels of the exact same size. Okay, then we can get our image, and we can, let's say it was, we're showing an item, right? We're going to show an item, so I need a picture of an item. Give me a picture of an item. Okay, do we have meat? Yeah, we've got that, right? So there's our widget. Okay, now we could obviously fill this in for the item data, right? You would just turn this into a variable. Well, it is, right? Make sure it's variable, and then you could set this image from a data table or whatever, or your data struct, right? Now on this side, what we could do is we could create a widget switcher, right? Because we can switch between panels on our widget switcher depending on if it's a gun or not. Okay, so I can show you a very simple way of doing that, right? And all we need to do is we're going to do a canvas panel. Now let me explain this in a second, what I am actually doing, right, and how this works. I'm going to create 2 canvas panels, okay? And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to duplicate our image, then I'm going to drag it into that canvas panel, then I'm going to create it again, duplicate it again, and I'm going to drag it into this canvas panel, right? But this time I'm going to change this to a pig, okay? And just for argument's sake, we'll make this 250 by 250, right? And we shall do the same here, 250 by 250. Okay, so the way a widget switcher works is to switch between the different widgets, or let's say panels. Each child directly under the widget switcher is numbered with an index starting at index 0. So within the widget switcher, this is index 0, this is index 1. If I added another one, it would be index 2. Okay? So what we can do is we can get a widget switcher, right? And we can say set active widget index to 0. We can copy this and paste it, and buggers! Sorry. I keep hitting Control W, and if anybody's worked between 4.27 and 5, Control W is duplicate in 4.27, but it seems to be close the bloody window in 4.25 UE5, right? So we're going to duplicate this, and on false we're going to change it to 1. Plug that in, and now watch what happens. On our pawn, we're going to set this to false, right? We're not doing this, so forget that. I'll delete that so it doesn't. So all we're going to do is create our sunburst widget and add it to the viewport. At the moment, our gun is false. Okay? So we will run it. It'll load. Right? All good. We hit 8. There's our pig. Okay? If we now say is a gun, compile it, press play. Okay, so we press 8. This time it's not a pig. How's about that? So you can see that we can create a whole different look to our widget, and this is only a very simple way to do it, right? There's multiple other ways you could do this, right? You could load up a whole other widget within that widget, right? Which is something I do quite a lot as well, right? Like, for example, when you are doing, for example, an inventory, okay, you're adding, basically you've got a grid, and possibly a uniform grid, possibly a normal grid, depending on how you're doing it, and you'll be adding multiple widgets into that grid, okay? So that is a very simple idea, but obviously, right, that's really not what we want, right? So we'll delete those images out and we'll make a sort of a more obvious example, right? So let's say this one, we're going to do it vertically, right? So we'll add a vertical box, right? And then in this vertical box, we could add a horizontal box, right? And then in this horizontal box, we're going to do text, and we'll duplicate that. Okay, so see in here, we'd say is, we'll say, like, let's say gun type. Okay, we'd name this one, this one would be coming from a string table, right, of gun type, right? But obviously we're not going to do that now, right? But let's say this would be a variable, and we'd probably be passing this in, right, in some way, or we'd be querying a data table to get the name of the gun, right? But in effect, we would normally set this from a value, whether it's exposed on spawn or whether we're getting it for a data table when we're loading up all the data or whatever, right? But we're just going to call it AK, let's say an AK-63, right? Okay, and this horizontal box is Zaba. This text box is going to fill, and this one is going to fill. Why is that not doing what I thought it would do? Probably because this vertical box needs to be that, right? So say you had something like that, right? And we would then do our next set of data, and then our next set of data, right? So you'd have the gun type, and then say for example in here we've got something that's completely different, right? So we could duplicate that, then put it in there, right? And then we could completely change the text, because this could be like a item name, right? And let's say Medicat, right? And we could even do this so that these were, alright, that's what we'll do. Right, so what we're going to do, this canvas panel, vertical box, that's fine. Then we're doing a horizontal, right, but this is actually going to be a duplicate, and then we'll delete that, and then we shall duplicate. Right, so here we've got it just doing a straight, you know, description, data, description, data, description, data, except, so, but with this one, we're going description, data, description, data, description, data. Right, now, you can have it that you have an image, a description, any way you want, right? But the point being that this is an easy way to like customize the way that your widget will display just by using a widget switcher plus some kind of a switch. As I said, it could be an item type, or a enumerator, a bool, or whatever. It's really dependent on you, right? So if we press 8, right, we get our vertical just description data, description data. We could write it in that we, ah shit, that's the wrong one. I'm going to stop that again because we need to switch it in our pawn. Right, so if we set it to that one and press play, right, you'll notice that we've got it vertically now instead of horizontally, the data. Okay, now this isn't the only way you would use this, right? This is just a very simple example of what you can do, right? But in theory, you can take this and apply it across the board in like your game settings, right? So you could have set up your game settings where you want the data to be, you know, formatted in this way, right? And that switches a trigger on a widget switcher that you've got maybe 3 different layouts of the way that you display the data. And depending on the setting in your game settings, you can display it from either one you want, right? Hi, Pedro from Brazil. So, there is a very simple way just using a widget switcher, right, to display data in different sorts of ways, that if you just think about it, how you could apply it to your game, right? That's exactly it, Sunbuster. You can have, you're basically nesting widgets inside, or what is essentially, and there's no reason you can't actually put a widget, right, in the widget. Okay, so let me see. So for example, Where's my widget? Right. Now, remember, these are related to our widget switcher at the parent level. So this is index 0, this is index 1. Okay? So, if I add another canvas panel, this becomes index 2. Right? And what I can do is I could add a widget. Right? So if I now go to here again, I can now I've done it again. Done it again. I hit the button. Hit Control W. Right. So what I can do is change this to index 2. Right? And then rather than go through that, we don't care about that anymore. We're just going to go straight to 2. Right? And that was probably not the greatest widget to show, so I think we'll change it, because that widget doesn't do very much. Right? So let's show a widget hunger. Right, now if you click on that, you can see what it looks like. Right, we're not going to update it per se. Right, but we'll make it 100 by 100. Right, compile that. Right, press play. And now, not only can we show different info, you can see that we've now shown another widget. Okay? So, say for example, we wanted to change this, right? Got this vertical box, right? Now, say I wanted to change these, right, using a button. Well, what I could do is probably, we'll not create the button first, we'll create a horizontal button, right? We'll create a horizontal box, sorry, and we'll put this in the vertical box. Okay? And then we'll create our button. Right? And then we'll put that in here. Right? Then we'll add text to that. Then we shall duplicate it. Then we shall duplicate it again. Okay. And here's our 3 buttons. Okay. This horizontal box, or sorry, what we can do is say fill, and fill, and then what we can do is we can select the 3 buttons and then we can basically pad them to the right. Okay, and then we can go to our graph. We can delete this for now. We can go button, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do clicked. Hi, Mr. Spock. Right, better going to designer to see this, right? So button, clicked, right, button, we've done the clicked on that one, button, clicked, right? So all we need to do now is basically delete that. Oopsie. So we do that. We do that. Obviously, you're going to name these buttons something more useful to you, but we're doing this for demonstration purposes. So now we can select between each of the buttons or each of the panels of our widget switcher using these buttons. Okay, so you can see here that there's something weird going on. I don't know what I clicked on there, but anyway. Actually, I think I know what happened, but we're not going to worry about it. Right? So, we need to show the cursor. Okay? So, show cursor. Right? And this is going to be oopsie. Show the mouse cursor, and we'd probably set UI only. Oopsie. It's not UI, it's mode. Where is it? Right. Now you guys can play about with this, but you need to set the player controller, so we just get player controller. Right. Compile that, and yeah, I kind of thought that was a player controller actually. So back to here. So now you can see that clicking our buttons changes our widget completely. Right? But you'll notice that this never changes, right? It's only this widget switcher that's changing. Okay? Pretty cool, huh? So as I said, that is a very simple way of doing it. Just using a widget switcher with different setups. You can show different data. Basically your imagination, whatever you can come up with in your head, basically. Remember that when you're event constructing and you're exposing on spawn, then basically if you can pass in the data to the widget to set itself up, then that's the way I do it, right? So basically I'm going to delete this out. What's the best way to do this? Yeah, for example, right, if I press play, right, shoot Mr. Piggy. Right, skin him. Right, now if I go up to cook here, right, this is exactly what you just seen. This is split into two panels, right? And basically what I've got here is a grid, right? And then the grid is filled up. Now, when I get an item, I basically fill it up with information, right? Which also acts to fill up the information in my tooltip, okay? And this, again, is another panel. And this is just getting the information back from the player's inventory, right? And it just fills it up with the buttons, right? That probably shouldn't be a button, actually. It isn't. But these are buttons, right? So when you click the button, it's already got the information to act upon it, okay? So when I click this, it knows it's going to cook, it's going to make cooked pork. Okay. Right. No idea what you're saying, Lucid Dreams. Is this in 4.27? No idea what DLWE is either, off the top of my head. But anyway, right now, and some of the things I do, worry about that one later, is for example, I use something that we just discussed in the crafting, right? Because you will notice that when I craft, where are the variables? Down here. Down the bottom will be the crafting mode. Okay, so the crafting mode is either cooking or crafting, and depending on whether we are cooking or crafting is basically how it sets itself up, right? So you will notice at the start here switch on crafting, right? And it's actually in begin play as well, right? So basically we get the pawn, we get a reference to the pawn straight away. Alright, I don't know what the dynamic landscape weather effect component is, to be honest. If I've got a different name for it or something. Right. So anyway, yeah, this is us doing our usual setup, the cursor, and then we set up the searching and stuff depending on the craft mode, right? So if we're cooking, right, we basically hide some buttons, change another couple of texts, and then fill the crafting grid, and we use these variables to set that up, right? Whereas in the normal version, we just leave it as is, and then we set this to basically show all, which ignores this, right? It just shows everything. So you can see there that, and I expose that on spawn, right? So when I create the crafting widget, I pass in this variable. Okay? So yeah, that's me effectively using the is_gun thing here. But I'm not using a bool, I'm using a crafting mode, which at the moment only has 2 entries, crafting, cooking. Okay? No reason why I can't add another and make it act differently. And as you see, when you're moving complete, it also does this in the crafting and in the cooking. It does a slightly different version, right? So there you go. So if you're enjoying the stream, hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm going to go and grab a cigarette. And we shall be back in a couple of minutes. So don't go anywhere, guys. I'll be right back. Right, we are back. And let's get rid of that. Let's get our chat back up. Thank you, Pedro Henrique. Don't know what that means, but I'll take it as a good thing. Right, now, where is another practical use of this? Well, there is an absolute glaring one, right? And it's called the main menu and the options. Okay. So let's have a look at the main menu first. Right now, this is like a work in progress, but we can look at it anyway. Our widgets have been placed into 3D space, and you'll get the idea in a minute. Right, it's going to look freaking weird to start with. Right, but we'll check it in a minute. So if I press play, right, you can do all this stuff. You can go to options, and guess what these are? Or guess what this is? This is a widget switcher. When we hit graphics, it switches to this widget canvas panel, switches to that one, switches to that one. Right? So that is a literal example of how we can use our example that we just did, the simple example, in an actual setting where we're using the actual things, right? Now you'll notice there is our thing. We can click on that. And we can do that again. We need to change this panel down a bit, but you get the idea. This is the kind of thing I was looking at and working on, right? But yeah, there's like two objects. This sub widget, if we make it, let's say 0.75, I don't know if this is going to make any difference, but we'll soon find it. Yeah, it did. There we go. How's about that? Graphics, audio, keybinds. How's about that? There you go. Anybody any questions on that? This does like manage data where you can load a game. There's no games there at the moment, but this is, as I said, this is me just prototyping this out. There is an actual credits where it will do that kind of stuff. I'm not too keen on that, to be honest. Maybe need to do something with that. It's not supposed to happen. But anyway, that's all within the widget switcher and stuff, okay? And we're not even running, so I don't know why I hit that button. But, so you can see there how you implement the example that I showed you, okay? And a very practical use for it, which is your options, because you've got your audio options, your graphical options, your gameplay options, blah blah blah, and you can split them up on your widget switcher. It's all part of one widget. Yeah, I've got over 500 videos now, and if I had started from the start and actually... See, the problem is that this wasn't supposed to be like a widget or necessarily a tutorial on widgets, right? It was just going to be a stream, and then we take it through there and what we work on. Just depends. Right, whether or not I'm going to work directly on the game or indirectly on the game, or whether we're going to do something completely different, like for example work on just widgets and have a look at those particular things. It's taking its time because of the navigation and textures, but we'll get there soon. Yeah, so it's just a matter of what I fancy doing on the day, really. And Saturdays and Sundays I'm kind of like normally a bit burnt out for the week, so I spend far too much time in Unreal Engine anyway. Right. The question is, did I actually create this? Did I... Wait a minute. Has this deleted my thing? I get the funny feeling this has deleted my bloody spline from last night. Unless I just deleted it because I was unhappy with it or something. Is there one down further a bit? Yeah, that's the one I created. Right, that's the one I created, that's okay. But what I have realised is... that these points these wooden blocks here, right, should all be inside our thing. Right, so what I'm guessing is that this should, oh bollocks, this should be kind of over there a bit. They might need to go down a bit as well, to be fair. We might need a new point around here. Right. This should kind of go like that. How's about that? Right, so what we could do is not press Control W. That's the first thing we could not do. Right, is we can copy it . Right, and we can find the next place it should be, which is over here. Right, so it's there, then we can rotate it to get an idea. Then we can kind of drop it into position-ish. Right. Right. That gives us a decent start point, don't you think? First thing we'll do is drag that up. Drag that up. I'll drag this nearer to the start. going to have to gradually so this is going to be over here. Ooh, not good. Right. So that's going to end up round about there, right? Once we get this into some kind of position, we'll be alright. Okay. Probably need right, okay, whatever. Probably need probably need this over there a bit. And we probably need a spline here. And we probably need to pull that up a bit. Right. Right, worry about the rest of that in a minute. Because what we need to do is get this into some kind. We probably need a spline point here as well. Bollocks. I've done it again. Oh whatever. Don't know why it's doing that, but anyway. I'll add a spline point there. Right, so that's going to come out a bit. Probably more like that. Right, this is going to go and do that. Right, this can go over here, but this can come down a bit. Okay. Alright. It's going to be more like that. Okay. It's going to be like that, but probably down a bit. Okay, whatever. Keep selecting the other thing. Add a spline point there, drag that out a bit. Then this can go out a bit. And we can do that. There we go. How's about that? And I think we've got one more to do. Don't know where it is though. I think it might be up here. Or possibly not. It is up here somewhere, but I'm not 100% sure where it is. Right, there was 3. Here it's here. Right, so we'll duplicate that. Right. And drag it up. We'll drag it over here. And basically we can start working on it from here. We could probably move these next to at the same time, but we'll just get a general feel for it first. I think that's the best way. A bit weird, but anyway. straighten that out a bit. There we go. Right. So we'll move that to the first. Then what we'll do is we'll gradually move them closer. That's not what we wanted to do. Alright. And this one. Ah, we've got that horrible thing again. It's as if we've got another right. Yeah, that's the one we want to move. Right, at least that gives us a kind of a start. Right. Now this one can get don't know what's going on there like, but it's like we're on the wrong one. Right. Right, that's actually okay. That's actually the wrong way, I think. Right, that'll actually do for now, right? looks like we need a spliney point there. Okay, we'll call that a win. Right. That's better. And what we'll do now, can I? Apparently not. I was trying to select more than one selling point to move them at the same time, but apparently you really can't. Right. This one here. That's more like it. This one can go in a bit. That one can go in a bit. Okay. Point here is this needs to go down. Also needs to go down. That needs to go down. And it looks to me like this one needs to be going away. Yeah. That's better. It's just a spline, where a spline component, where you make any model part of this. don't know where you'd actually get a specific example of it, but it's just look up the likes of pipes. Pipes use this type of thing. Walls, pipes, all of those nice graphical things. Right. So there we go. We've got, at least we've got something, right? That was the point here, to basically get something. Not saying it's brilliant, not saying it's crap, but it's there when it wasn't before. Okay, so we're gonna save all that. I can open the blueprint. It's just add spline component. Didn't do this, but I don't think you need. This is for. This is the construction. Right, so that's a construction script. So that's so that you can see it being built, right, when you're building it, but it's just basically a spline component. Alright, there's plenty of examples of this type of thing. Mainly used in like walls, pipes, that type of thing. And all you're doing is basically drawing a mesh along a spline, right? Basically bit by bit. And anyway, I'm going to call it there for this afternoon. Hope you enjoyed the widget stuff, and then the little bit of chill out at the end there, making a nice walkway. If you've got any questions or whatever, join the Discord, we can have a chat in there. Or whatever, but I'm going to go and grab some milk and get a coffee. So, if you haven't already, hit like and subscribe, check out the description for links to the Discord, my personal Discord, Patreon, previous game on Steam, and all that stuff that I can't be bothered repeating 100 times a day. Right, so thank you for watching. Any questions, I'll just pop me a message on Discord, and I shall see you tonight at 8 PM Central. Bye bye for now.